Hi, this is Habibur Rahman, and welcome to my show Azure Essential Series episode 5. And today we will talk about building and scaling with Azure App Services. So first of all, we will discuss key features of Azure App Services. Then we will move to Azure Portal where we will create Azure App Service, and then we will deploy a simple ASP.NET Core app. We will also explore scaling and performance optimization options, and we will also discuss few real world cases. So this is your host Habibur Rahman. I'm C Shop Corner MVP, Microsoft Certified Solution Developer, and currently working as a lead software developer at Now Software. So first of all, if we discuss about the key features of Azure App Services, it support multi-programming languages. App Services support various programming languages and frameworks such as .NET, .NET Core, Java, and it also support Ruby, Node.js. So it integrates with popular frameworks like Django, Flask, and Express, so almost you can host anything on your Azure App Service. Then it provides different deployment options, including continuous integration and development with Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, Bitbucket, and other Git repositories. It also provides us deployment slots for staging environment and easy swapping of different variants of your application. And then if we will move to scaling option, App Service allows both vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. We will discuss further in next episode, next slides. Then we have high availability uh, deployed on Azure App Services, benefits from Azure's global scale and availability. It automatically load balances traffic across instances to ensure high availability. Then it's seamless integration with Azure services such as Azure SQL database, Cosmos DB, or Active Directory. So it's very easy to integrate. Then we have security options. Azure App Service provide built-in security features, including integration with Azure Key Vault for managing application secrets and support SSL certificates and authentication option with Azure Active Directory, OAuth, and other social identity providers as well. It also provides us monitoring and diagnostics. It offers built-in monitoring and logging through Azure Monitor, provide insights into the performance and health of your application. We can also have details and telemetry data with analytics report. So almost all options are available. Then we have DevOps integration. It's very easy to integrate with Azure DevOps, with GitHub Actions or any other CI/CD pipelines. So it's very easy to automate zero tests and deployments. Then we have geo distribution options. We can deploy our apps on multiple Azure regions for better performance and disaster recovery. We can also manage our traffic to different routes and according to the closest region. Then we have cost management. Azure App Services provides flexible pricing options, including consumption-based pricing and dedicated VMs or premium plans as well. So it totally depends on our requirement. Then we have a few cons of Azure App Services. First of all, vendor logging. Basically, Azure App Service integrate well with Azure other services, so it can lead to vendor log, making it challenging to migrate to another cloud provider. Then we have customization limits. As you know, this is as an infrastructure as a service provided by Microsoft, so we have limited control and in some features so we may need certain customizations which is not possible in Azure App Service. We have performance variability. Basically, performance may be varied based on the chosen app service plan and resource allocation, especially during peak loads or when scaling. So there may be performance variability according to situations. Then cost consideration. Azure App Service offers flexible pricing, but still cost can be escalated with increased usage, especially with premium plans and with additional features. We also have a complexity with large scale deployment. For example, you are managing large scale deployments with multiple instances and regions. So multiple regions can introduce complexity in configuration and maintenance. So this may be a con. Then we have a dependency on Azure availability. Reliability and availability of applications are dependent on Azure's global infrastructure and the service uptime. Then we have learning curve. Despite Azure App Services are friendly and with very easy interface to use, but still there may be a learning curve for beginners to understand inside Azure ecosystem. So these are a few cons of Azure App Services. Then few other scaling options are available, but we will talk about these scaling options after creating an Azure App Service. So let's start this. Let me share my screen. Okay, so okay, so here it is. I already have created one Azure account. So currently I'm on home screen of Azure portal. So if I go to different resource groups, I already have created one resource group. This basically means Azure Essential underscore RG means a resource group. So I already have one resource group. I will be using this resource group for all different resources. Okay, so if I click on this menu, we have app services. Currently, I don't have any app service created. So if I click on create button, you can see that there are four different options available. First of all, first one is web app. And then we have static web apps. Static web apps are basically for hosting a static website. For example, your website is just using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So you can host your website using this option. Then we can also create database alongside our web application. So you don't have to set up your database separately. So you can also use this option. Then there is also a built-in template for WordPress on app services, so you can create that as well. So we will start with web app, the first and the basic option. Okay, so let's create it. Now, if I see this create blade, first of all, we have basic options. Inside basic options, we need to select project details, and inside that we have subscription. That is pay as you go. Then I need to select the resource group. I already have created one resource group, so I will be using that one. If you don't have any resource group, you can also create from here. Okay. Then we need to specify an a unique web app name. So this name will also be used for our custom domain. Using that, we will be able to access our website. So in my case, I'm going to use AELearn, Azure Essential Learn. So this domain, custom domain is available. So it's giving me OK sign. Then we have different publish options. In my case, I'm going to use code, but there are other options available. You can use container options, and you can also use static website here. But in our case, we are going to use code. Then we need to select runtime stack. So you can see that different options available. You can host .NET, Java, Node, PHP, and Python applications. As I will create an ASP.NET Core MVC application using .NET 8, so I will select .NET 8 LTS. So this one is the latest or you can say that standard version available of .NET 8. Then we have operating system options. We have Linux and Windows. We can use any of one because .NET 8 is supported by both platforms. So I will be using Linux for this. Then we have region option. As my resource group is already created inside East US, so I'm going to select this. Then we have pricing plans. Pricing plans are basically plans for your hardware features. So currently, I don't have any pricing plan. If I click on pricing plan, or I can say create new, I can say a ELAN Azure Service Plan. This is the name which is already used by someone else. So I can say, okay, this name is available. So click on OK. Then you can see that different pricing plans are available. First of all, we have free plan. This provide a limited 60 CPU minutes per day, which are free. So this is the first plan. Then we have basic plans. We have premium plans. These plans have different features. For example, if you want to use deployment slots, which are only available inside premium plan, so we will be selecting premium plan so that we can explore more options. Then we have zone redundancy option, which means if you will enable your zone redundancy, basically three instances of our application will be deployed on different regions. So this is by default settings provided by Azure App Services for better performance and availability. But as this is for development purpose, so I'm going to disable this. If I click on next button, we have database option. So if I will click a new database here, it will be part of a virtual network related to my Azure App Service, and it will be running on the same virtual machine which I am using for web app service. So currently, my application is not using any database, so I will not select this option. Then we have deployment option, continuous deployment. You can use GitHub Actions for deploying your code on Azure App Service. Currently, I'm going to use disable, and later on, I will use deployment options for this. But currently, I'm going to use disable. Then we have networking options. So for first of all, I want my application to be publicly accessible. So I will go with on option. And there is another option, but I will select off for this. If I go to monitoring option, it's taking a little bit time. So inside monitoring option, basically, if I select or enable this option, this will automatically create application inside service inside my resource group. And that application inside will be automatically connected with my web app service. Basically, application insight is for providing analytics and logs data. It also provide database query options and different optimization options, so you can see what is happening inside your application. So you can enable this option as well. So let me give it a name, or I can go with the default name. Then we have tags. If you are interested, you can assign any tag to your web app service. It will help you to find your or to group your resources. But in my case, I'm okay without tags. So this is the review and create rate. Here you can see the summary of the web app that you are going to create. This is the estimated price, which is 73.73 USD per month. And I'm going to use premium V3. Next, these are subscription detail and all the options that I have selected. And here are the hardware details. My instance memory will be 4 GB and the size will be extra small, and there are other options here. So let's click on create button. So now you can see that Azure is initializing the deployment. It will take almost 4 or 5 minutes to deploy my Azure web app on infrastructure. So it will take a little bit time. So we have to wait for this. So here you can see. the deployment have been started, and it is showing deployment is in progress. Okay, so meanwhile, Azure is creating our web app service, and I can show you the simple application that I have created for this episode so that we can host that application on Azure Web App Service. So if I open my Visual Studio, so I have created a simple web application and the name is Web Application 1. This is created using ASP.NET Core MVC and I have a default controller, home controller and a default view. So this is my view. And I already have pushed my code on my GitHub repo. So I will be using this application. If I run this application to see how it look likes, and later on we will deploy this on Azure App Service. So let's Visual Studio run my application. Okay. So here you can see this is a default template provided by Microsoft. We have home page, then we have privacy page. Okay, so this is the application that I will be using for hosting purpose. I already have pushed this code on my GitHub repo, so I will show you that as well. So later on, we will be using this to host our application. If I search it, web application one. Okay, so here I already have published my code here. So I will be using this repo for publishing my code on Azure Web App Service. So let's see the status of, okay, the deployment have been completed. If I click on go to resource and see whether my website is running or not. It- It's taking a little bit time. So let's wait for that. So, okay, so now you can see that the Azure web app have been created successfully and it is also running. So this is the default domain that have been binded by Azure. So if I click on this domain to see whether my app is running or not, so you can see that this is showing me a default page by Azure Web App. So you can see that it is showing me your web app is live and you can deploy your code and it will take 5 minutes to display. And then it is showing me different options to deploy. So it means my web app is up and running. Okay. Now we will see different options here. You can see that first of all, here it is showing my app service plans. Okay. So now we will talk about deployment, how we can deploy our application. So if I scroll down and here I can find deployment center. And inside deployment center, there are different features available. There are also FTP client available. So if you are interested or you are an old guy and you want to use FTP access, where you can directly put your code inside directory, so you can create FTP credentials from here. And if you want to publish your application directly using publish profile, this is basically you can download a publish profile and using Visual Studio, you can directly publish your code. But in my case, I will use GitHub Actions for deploying the application on Azure Web App Service. Okay, so first option that I have to enable from configuration is basically SCM, basic authentication. So this option is used for creating a connection between our GitHub Actions and also used for Visual Studio Profile. So I will enable this option SCM basic auth publish. So save this option, continue, and now I will go to deployment center. Let's wait few seconds. Okay, now I can go to deployment center. So now here, first of all, I need to select the code source from where I want to deploy my application. So now here you can see that a lot of built-in providers available. You can use GitHub for CI/CD, Bitbucket, local Git, Azure repos, and we can also use external Git. In my case, I already have published my code on GitHub, so I will be using GitHub. So now I have to select a few GitHub settings so that it can create GitHub action for me. First of all, as I have the same account on my GitHub and on my Microsoft Azure, so I will be using the same account. I don't have to be logged in again. If you are interested to change your account, you can change from here. Then you need to select the organization under which your repo is on GitHub. So in my case, the organization name is Habib Developer. This is my personal account. And then we need to select the repository. So these are all the repositories available on GitHub for my account, and for current deployment, the name of GitHub repo is Web Application 1. So I will be using this web application one repository. Then we need to select a branch for which we want to deploy the code. So I will be selecting master branch. And these are the build setting. So I'm using a .NET stack with a .NET Core 8 version. Then we have authentication setting. So we can create user assigned identity, but in my case, I'm going to use basic authentication. So now if I click on preview file, this file is basically YML file, which will be created on my GitHub repo code. And this file will basically create a workflow action. First of all, this workflow will be triggered on my master branch whenever I will push or I will create any push request. Then inside job options, first of all, it will be using Ubuntu for building my code. Then there are different steps which will be used for building and then publishing and then uploading my artifact on Azure DevOps. So this will be the workflow file configuration. So now if I click on save button, so now basically GitHub Actions build and deployment pipeline will be configured. And now you can see that inside my logs, few options are available. First of all, a new build deploy pipeline just have been triggered. And here you can see that the status is in progress. So this one is basically building my code. If I go to my Azure web app and if I refresh, you can see that the GitHub actions just have been added inside my code. So, and here it is the GitHub action YML file that will be used for building and publishing my code. So currently, you can see that this one is showing me the status. Okay, and the status is currently pending. Build and deploy ASP.NET Core Azure app. This is the name of my GitHub action, and currently it is pending. I can also see this action inside this action tab of my GitHub. So I already configured one yesterday for testing purpose, and here the new one is building. And if I click on this, you can see the build has been published successfully, and currently it is deploying to production. And here is the link. And here are different warnings shown by Microsoft. So according to GitHub, it have been published. If I move to my Azure panel and refresh the logs, okay, so now my deployment have been completed successfully. If I go to my Azure App Service and refresh this, oh, that's great. So you can see that my ASP.NET Core MVC application have been deployed on Azure Web App. So you see it is very easy to integrate with GitHub Actions, and all the steps are very easy to do on Azure App Services. And now, if I move to other options, first of all, you can see that we have scale up and we have scale out plans. Okay. But before moving to these options, I will go to my slides. On Yeah. So here, these are you can see that these are different scaling options available. And if we talk about these different scaling options, first of all, we have manual scaling. So basically, with manual scaling, you can specify the number of instances you want to run. You can also increase the size of your instance, and other all other options you can perform manually. So the good thing about scaling in Azure App Service is that the downtime is very low. You can say that your app is available 99.99%. So the user would not feel any downtime. This is a good thing of manual scaling. And then we have automatic scaling. Inside automatic scaling, you can build different rules. You can basically automatically scale your application based on your CPU utilization. You can set thresholds to increase or decrease the number of instances as CPU load fluctuates. So, for example, you can set a rule if your CPU load increases greater than 80%, it introduces another web app instance. So you can do this. Then there are other metric based auto scaling. You can also use HTTP queue length, memory usage, or custom application metrics for triggering different automatic scaling options. So these are different options available. You can also scheduled scaling. This option is basically for example, I have a website where the load is very high on weekends. So I can schedule my logic where on weekends my app will be scaled automatically to multiple instances, and after weekend it can scale down to one or two instances. So you can build different logics. Then you can also use Azure Monitor Scale. Basically, Azure Monitor integrates with Azure App Service to provide advanced auto scaling capabilities. It allows you to define auto scale rules based on metrics from Azure Monitor and application insight. So the main thing is you can scale your application according to Azure Monitor statistics. And then the main concept inside scaling, we have vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. So vertical scaling is basically allows you to vertical scale your application by changing the price tier, which means app service plan, which is associated to your app, or you can increase your CPU tiers, or you can increase your memory. So which means vertical scaling is all about increasing the specifications of your current instance. Then we have horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling is basically involves in increasing or decreasing the number of instances running on your application. So, for example, if your application is running on one instance, you can run it on 10 instances. So this is basically scaling in. And if you want to decrease your instances, this is scaling in. So these are options. Then different deployment slots available. We already have talk about them. So now let me share my screen so that we can continue what next. Okay. Now if I go to scale up options, so here uh, Azure is basically showing me all the app service plans or hardware features that I can select. Okay. So first of all, you can see that we have a def and test plans. So these are basically basic plans and free plan and mostly used for def and testing purpose. Currently, I'm using production V3 plan and this plan provide me virtual CPUs 195, then 8 GB memory, then remote storage of 250 GB, and then scale instances of up to 30 instances. And the availability is 99.95%, and then it is showing me the cost. So now if I want to scale down my application, it is very easy. I just have to select this option, and this option contains 4 GB RAM. And if I select this, so you can see that Azure is updating the plan. So now you can see that in just few seconds, my Azure web app have been scaled down. So you can see that it's very easy to do manual scaling up and down for your application. You can also do scaling on the basis or different feature views. When we have scale out options, so if I go to scale out option, as we already have talked about, scale out option is related to increasing or decreasing the instance of your running app. So this is the current pricing plan and the current instance count is one. So which means only one instance is running for my application. And here also different scale out options are available, manual scaling, automatic scaling, and rule based scaling. So if I select this manual scaling and then I can increase the instance count. So you can see that I can increase the count up to 30 instances because my service app service plan only support maximum 30 instances. So for example, currently I'm running on one instance and I want to scale out my application. So click on save button and Azure will scale out my application with 2 instances. So now you can see that 2 instances of my Azure application is running. So which means if my prior to this scaling, if my application was able to handle 100 requests, now my application can handle 200 requests. So these are scaling options. Then we have automatic scaling option. So here you can select the maximum burst. Maximum burst is basically number of instances this plane can scale out under load. So here you can put the maximum threshold. And then we have always ready instances. Always ready instances means your instance will be ready whenever load will be provided. It will automatically scale out your application. Then we can enforce scale out limit. So this limit is basically the maximum scale limit that you want to enforce. So these are different options available. You can also select rule-based scaling. Rule-based scaling is uh, basically triggered on any schedule or any app metric, but currently it is not enabled, so it will not work. Okay, so if I refresh this and If I refresh page, you can see that currently my app is running on two instances, and I have to pay 0.11 USD per hour for this. Okay, let's refresh this page. My app is running fine. Currently, no way to test how much apps it can handle, but you can see that. Okay, now there are different options available here inside my Azure App Service. So we can move to different options. First of all, we have configuration option. Okay. Inside configuration, you can see you can select the stack setting or you can select the language or framework you are using, and you can use or select the FTP options, whether it is allowed or not. You can select the HTTP version. You can enable SSH for your web app service. You can enable SSL for your app service, and currently it is enabled. You can also impose different inbound rules, and you can also select debugging. If there is any issue coming, you can enable the debugging option. We also have environment variables. Environment variables basically contains the settings of your application which your app is running. So, for example, on your own premises server, when you are host your application, you have to create app setting file, and that app setting file contains the database connection strings and other credentials as well. But on Azure App Service, you can use environment variables, and you can choose. We also have a dedicated connection string option. So here you can create your connection strings as well. Uh, then we have authentication options. Okay. So now here you can see that you can add any identity provider. So you can also external identity provider can be used, for example, Facebook, Google, and Twitter. So these are built-in integration by Azure App Service, and they are very easy to integrate. Then you can also take backup of your Azure App application. So currently you can see that the automatic backup is configured with every 1 hour, which means if there will be any issue comes inside your application, or if there is any issue with infrastructure on Azure side, it will be automatically roll back from your backup. So you can also configure custom backups here. So here you can select the storage account. Basically, if you want to back up your Azure Web App Service, you have to create one storage account. And inside that storage account, your backups are stored. So you can schedule that as well. So you can select every 1 day, every hour. So you can select anytime with this. So currently I don't need this, so I will do the next option. Then we have custom domains. Uh, Currently, my application is created with a default domain, but if you are interested to integrate or you want to use your custom domain, you can integrate that as well here. And you have different options for that. First of all, you have if you are using Azure domains, you can use this. Otherwise, you can all select this all other domain servers. And all other options you have to configure, and the custom domain will be used for this. Then we have networking options. So inside these networking options, you can configure different inbound and outbound traffic rules. For example, you can allow specific IP addresses or a range of IP addresses to access your application, or you can deny that specific applications. So these are different available. Then you can also configure virtual network. Virtual network is basically also an option provided by Azure. So you can configure VNet as well with Azure App Service. So then we have scale up and scale out options. We have web jobs, we have service connectors, and then we have logs. So there are a lot of options available, and you can use another Azure service, which is basically used for managing different API settings. For example, you can configure a load balancer on which instance you want to route your traffic. So these are different options available. Then we have a cross-region scripting options. So you can these are security options you can also apply for your apps. And the main thing about is monitoring. If I go to metrics, and here I can add different metrics, and I can add different metrics for my web app service, and these metrics then later on can be configured with different things like scaling and like different alert options. So if I go to health check, health check will basically show me the health of my running Azure app. So okay. So currently, the health check is disabled for my app. If I want to enable this health check, and then I have to add one auth for that. So this endpoint will basically check whether my app is running or not. And we also have a load balancing threshold option. So, for example, if my app is not available for 10 minutes, it will be marked as unhealthy. So, these are different options available. We can also collect different diagnostic settings. For example, we can collect memory dumps and we can store them inside storage accounts. So, these are different options available in case of troubles. So, you can use them. So, now, if I go to my resource group and if I see how many other things are created alongside my Azure Web App Service. So you can see that when I created my Azure App Service, it automatically creates an application insights instance. Basically, I enabled this option. That's why this instance was created. Then it also created a app service plan, and this app service plan is basically used with my Azure App Service. So this is how you can host or you can build your Azure Web App Services. Okay. So this was how we can scale and build Azure Web App Services. We can have different scaling options as well. So thank you so much for being the part of C Shop Corner Islamabad chapter. And if you are interested to access the code for different episodes of Azure Essential series, you can access from my GitHub repo, github.com/habib-developer/Azure Essential series. So thank you so much for joining C Shop Corner Islamabad chapter, and hopefully see you in next episode, and have a good day.